Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's meeting, the complete guide to pig farming in 2023. My name is Victor, and I'll be hosting the panel discussion on what farmers need to know going into pig farming for 2023. Members of this panel, I'm going to introduce other members of the panel now. Everybody is here. I have Tomi Olatunde here. I have Romeo, and I have okay, that's Romeo, and I have Tony Wandella, who is here. I hope my audio is okay enough so everybody can hear me.
Yeah.
All right. So to be clear, this session is being recorded, so we can always play back whenever we want to. So I'll just quickly kickstart proceedings now. I'm going to start with Romeo Rungano. Mr. Romeo, just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your profile as a pig farmer.
Hello, is everyone hearing me?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So my name is Romeo, and I am from Zimbabwe. That is specifically Victoria Falls. So you're going to see that the region is a bit hot. It's like that it's very difficult to deal with pure breeds. So we ended up dealing with the crossbreeds of those three major players in the pig industry, which is your Duroc, your Landrace, and your large white. So currently we are at 40 sows. So we've got a 40 sow unit. And if you look at the 40 sow unit, giving us an average of around 1.3, 1.4 per year. That is 1,400 plus or minus piglets per year. So that is basically what we're doing here in Victoria Falls. So you see that the region itself, people do not think that we can do piggery because of the temperatures. They're very high. But with the way we've been doing it with the breeding and stuff, we've seen that it's very profitable here in Zimbabwe. I think that is basically my profile. Right now, I'm actually the farmer, as you can see. So we are still here. We are doing it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Romeo. I bring up Mr. Tomi Olatunde. Tomi, you can unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. Tomi is maybe temporarily unavailable. Tony Wandella of Org Hota.
Hello, guys.
Can you tell us about yourself while we wait for Tomi?
Yeah, hello, guys. Hello, Romeo. Nice to meet you once again. Hello, Victor. And I see Inien, if I get it right. So my name is Tony Wandella. I'm in Western Kenya. And I'm a pig farmer. And I love pig very much. So I also publish a magazine on piggery. It's called Swan Balls Magazine. Currently, it has over 15K monthly readership. It's doing okay. In terms of pig farming, we have a farm and we currently have 13 sows, and we sell piglets and pork. So our journey has been tough, and I created Hoga Water specifically because when we started pig farming, we had so many mistakes. We did so much wrong that I thought it would be well if I can teach others, because the information was lacking. Tailor-made information for African pig farming. Thank you very much. Thank you, Victor, for hosting me here. I'm also recording, and this recording will be our YouTube page. And thank you.
All right. So thank you, Tony, for joining us. Tomi, can you hear me? Are you there? Okay. So I'm sure Tomi will join us in a moment, but I quickly want to go into the into the meat of our discussion. The complete guide to pig farming in 2023. We have in this forum, we have in this meeting, pig farmers, pig farmers, and we also have people who have interest in going into pig farming. We also have pig farmers who want to scale their operations, improve their farms, who have faced challenges, over the past year and would actually want to improve their operations and get their farm on the right footing. And that's why we have this meeting, so we can actually interact. So this is not, technically, this isn't a formal webinar where we try to teach or do anything. We actually want to learn and share ideas. I'm privileged to be on the same platform with other farmers who are, okay, Tommy is back. So I'm excited to be on the platform. And before going to what we have outlined for discussion today, I'd like Tommy to introduce himself and what he does as in the pig industry. Over to you, Tommy. Can you hear me, Tommy?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, Victor?
I'm hearing you loud. I'm hearing you.
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
All right. So, Tommy, before you came in, we were introducing ourselves, members of the panel, and Romeo has introduced himself, Tony has introduced himself, and it's up to you now.
Okay. My name is Tomi Olatunde. I'm Nigerian, and but I'm based in the European Union. I represent the interest of choice genetics in Africa. Okay, I've been in the industry for around 25 years, at least 25 years. So basically in Europe. So yeah, I've been into genetics. Basically, I've gone through nutrition and infrastructure. Yeah, I think yeah, that's it.
All right,
yeah,
thank
Victor.
you, Tommy.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us. So, as a brief introduction, what the purpose of this webinar is to create some kind of perspective into, or for pig farmers going into 2023, what can be done to improve the profitability of their farm, what can be done for farmers when they want to improve their farms or go into pig farming, a fresh perspective. Okay, so that's just exactly what we are going to spend a few hours talking about. And we have some areas of discussion which I would like to start with this discussion based on farm genetics. In the last webinar I held, and which you participated in, we looked at nutrition, but there was an important underlying idea which we discussed, and that was nutrition has to be as a superstructure, the infrastructure needed for profitability in the pig farming business has to be quality genetics. And you are a genetics consultant, and I would like to bring you into this discussion. What is the kind of quality of farm genetics that farmers need to start with? Or is genetics, I can put this another way, is genetics really crucial for any pig farming business?
Yeah, it's swine genetics is it's very, very important. It's paramount. The importance cannot be overemphasized because it's one of the basics, one of the basic pillars of industrial production of pig meat, of which the rest after genetics is feed and environment. Okay, we talk of genetics, feed, and the environment. So when we talk of genetic, we mean that the animals must be improved, selected animals of improved. If you look behind me here, okay, I'm sorry I can't remove it. You find all the pig breeds in the world. All right, all these breeds belong to different. They have different characteristics, different from different geographical locations. However, the industrial production of pig meat has zeroed down on the most important, the most economically important breeds in the industry, which means the landrace, the large white, the Pietren, the Duroc, and yeah, some hybrids. Okay, now these are the main breeds that has been selected internationally as the best of all these lists here. All right, so this was done in the second half of the 20th century, just after the Second World War, when in Europe practically, and where in the 50s and in the 60s, there was need to feed people, and there was need for cheap animal protein. All right. So all these things that we are actually sourcing today are things that are being done all over the world. Practically, that is why I said all these things have been zeroed down on the landrace, on the large white, on the Duroc, on the Pietren, on some hybrids that are along the market. So what do I want to say with that? I want to say that predominantly for maternal lines, it has been chosen and it has been proved that the cross of the landrace and the large white is the best cross, whatever. Okay, there is no discussion about that. The use of pure lines for maternal for breeding is not bad, but it has limitations. However, because nowadays, taking the feed cost into consideration, taking the various economic pressure on industrial pig production into consideration, we have to go for efficiency. We have to go for performance, the best performance of these breeds. Okay, so that is why it is also being emphasized for good fattening pigs, for efficient fattening pigs, for the production of efficient fattening pigs, for the production of efficient pigs, you have to zero down on the landrace and large white F1 cross. Clean and clear. There is no discussion about that. No discussion. This is what the world is doing, and we, Africa, cannot be different. So if you want to today we are talking about 30 piglets per sow per year. We're talking about 33 piglets per sow per year. If you want to do that, you have to go you have to follow the trend. The trend says it has to be a cross between the landrace and the large white. Punct. All right. Now, if you want meaty animals, you have to cross this F1 with a Pietren. Punct. If you want fast growth with intramuscular fat, okay, and not necessarily meaty, you have to go the Duroc way. If you have an abattoir where you sell your own meat, which means it's important that you have meaty products, you can use either a Pietren or meat produce high carcass producing hybrid line. These are available. Okay, so for you to survive, in today's industrial pig meat production, I would say, you need to have the right genetics. I'm not talking about the one you pick on Facebook. I'm not talking about the one you bought from your neighbor who said, okay, this is Landras. How do you certify the Landras? Because it has a flippy hair, or it has a kind of a nose somehow. No, it's not done like that. There are rules to it, so you have to follow the rules. All right.
Thank you.
So that's for now.
Thank you, Tommy. I'll bring in Romeo because Romeo is a pig farmer I've known for some time now. So Romeo, you heard what Tommy has said about genetics and its importance for pig farmers. What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Considering you are a farmer now, you're on ground. What kind of genetics do you have on your farm, and how do you source your genetics?
Right. Here in Zimbabwe, we've got the Pig Industry Board. They get most of their pigs from South Africa. So the Pig Industry Board, usually they get those pure breeds, that is your large white, your Landrace, as well as your Duroc. So what they do is they make crosses, and then after that, they sell the sows, when they are now ready for service. So they sell those to farmers. So on my farm, I've managed to buy most of my breeding stock from PIB Zimbabwe, which is the official board which deals with pig production in Zimbabwe. So most of my sows, they are crosses between the large white, Landrace, and the Duroc. The reason being is I'm mostly interested in meat production. So like what Tomi was saying, if you want to do meat production, make sure you've got your large white and your Landrace crossed. Then the F1, you cross it with the Duroc. So my breed is usually the crosses between the large white and the Landrace for the sows. And then whatever I do now for the boars, they come in, maybe whether it's a Duroc or the Petrend, they come in now to boost my meat production. So that is basically the kind of breeds that I have. So for the large whites and the Landrace, I'm mostly looking at their mothering abilities as well as their fecundity, then also their so those are things that we look at as farmers today. How productive are they? Then also, are they able to pass on their good abilities to their offspring? So as a farmer, you need to consider all those things so that at least at the end of the day, you've got good numbers as well as growth, like what Tomi. Thank you.
Hello, Victor, can you mute everybody, please? Thank you. Okay, now we can unmute the panel, please, because there was some interruptions.
Right, can I continue?
Yeah, please.
Right. So like what Tonny was saying, it's very ideal for farmers not to just pick any pigs from anyone who's saying they're selling pigs. Why? Because we don't know their genetics. We need to know the genetics of every pig that you have on a farm. This is why it's very important to keep records, as well as also to obtain records from where you buy those pigs from. So as farmers, now, yeah, we can never run away from this. You need to have good genetics. You also need to make sure that you have got the what you call it. We call those the certificates to say this pig,
the pedigree,
bought it from PIB, and it is large white mixed with Landrace, where there's an F1, F what, everything is supposed to be there on that certificate. And then you're going to see that your life becomes easier. Why? Because you're able to actually monitor, and then you're also able to have a foresight on what you're going to have at the end of the day. Number one, the number of piglets. Number two, its growth rate. Number three, the feed efficiency ratio, and all those other things. So it's always good to have those certificates with you. Make sure I've got the documents. If you don't have the documents, then you're not doing anything right. Yes.
Okay, so we are talking about genetics now, and from where I am and from our interaction with a lot of farmers, so many people feel like the genetics arguments, especially in Nigeria, is maybe overemphasized, overrated. A lot of farmers feel that you can get any animal, and once you feed the animal well, the animal will do well. So people feel that they can dispense without the right genetics. And I actually want to bring you back to what you were saying before I interjected, which was, what are those things which we expect a good genetics to give to your farm? What are those things? You're talking about mothering abilities, FCR, good growth targets, and all of that. So let's calm down a bit. So you are a farmer.
Okay.
You're a farmer. What's your win to finish duration? How long does it take your animal? Okay, first of all, what's your market size weight, and how long does it take for you to achieve that?
Right. As for my market size weight, it depends, because sometimes I sell pigs that are just after winning. We call those winners. People may also want winners. Then I sell pigs for speed. Those ones that will be doing those braais. I think around 2 months, 2 weeks, they're ready. You get about 20 kgs live, called dressed what? Mass. And then about 5 months time, you should be making sure that you have got your target weight, which is around 80 to 100 kgs thereabout, with proper feeding and also proper management. So the moment we don't include genetics in our farm, then there's a problem. In Zimbabwe, we've got some pigs. I think if you Google Mukota, Mukota, I think Tonny has got an idea of that one. It's a very small pig. It's a very black in color. It can eat and eat and eat, but it does not grow. Why? Because the genetics of it is saying, I am going to eat, but my growth rate will not compare with the feed that I'm eating. So as a farmer, you need to have an animal that when you feed, it also responds the feeding that you are giving it. Why? Because that is now genetic in nature. How does it perform with the feed that you're giving it? In as much as we might want the Mukota, why? Because it is good when it comes to disease resistance. It is good when it comes to adaptability. But is it profitable as a farm? So you need to consider all those things. That is why Tony was saying genetics. I think I can.
So as in continuation of Romeo, what Romeo is saying, look, if we analyze this further on, it's how you look at business, because this is a business. All right, it's when you have all the tools ready for you, it's just putting them and taking, available. You're just taking them and putting them in a place, and there are so that you cultivate it and get the economic result that is there. When you decide not to do that for any reason, then it's a choice. You understand? It's a choice. So when we said, for as far as today is concerned, there are basic lines that has been internationally agreed, not myself, it's internationally agreed that the landrace and the large white is when you cross those two together, you get an F1, and F1 is your parent stock. All right, and with the F1, you cross with, as Romeo said, confirmed later earlier before, you cross with either a Pietren, you cross with either a Duroc, then you get your fattening pig. If you want to cross the fattening pig with the large white, you are doing something else. So it's orthodox. It has to go that way. When you decide not to go that way, then you get the repercussion. You don't get what you're supposed to get. Everybody is talking about 30. We're talking about 34, 33. piglets born per sow per year. Yes, these are numbers that are realized in Latin America with temperatures that are very similar to those in Africa. All right? Yeah. How will those people not have the profitability? How will they not have the profitability? And we all have access to all the same animals, to the same principles, but then we choose to go the Mukota way. We want to go the Mukota way. We want to have the local breed because we say, okay, so it's the way we approach business. Because this is a business at the end of the day, Victor.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had these discussions in several forums. Farmers need to look at that genetics thing all over again. Because
it's what I want to say. They have to look at pig farming as a business. It's not a hobby. It's not a backyard thing. It's a business. So when you start the earlier you start looking at visualizing it like that, the better and the easier things decision are being made by the businessman. Okay, yeah, the earlier you start seeing it like that. So, but because when you look at it like a hobby, just put 5 things there and just patch it together, and it's a disaster.
Definitely. I think when you were in Nigeria, we had this discussion, and we saw some of the mistakes that a lot of farmers make. I think even from a nutrition perspective, and people approach me a lot on issues of nutrition. I want my animal to grow. They're having stunted growth. They are not doing well. It's never a simple discussion. And I keep telling people, it's one thing for someone, a lot of farmers are looking for the best solution, the quickest solution to say, if I mix this and this, my animals will grow. But it's not simple, because I can give you a solution, a nutrition solution, and if you have a bad genetics, then it might not work. I have seen farms where a 4-month-old, 3-month-old piglets are still struggling between 12 to 15 kilo. Some are doing 13 kilo. I've also seen farms where animals of 5 months old are still at the winning stage. So it's something that people need to ponder on, the issue of getting the right farm genetics. And I will come down to how people can assess right farm genetics, because we know that locally, especially in Nigeria, for most of our colleagues in East Africa, it has become relatively easy for them to get the good genetics. But in Nigeria, we are still struggling.
People don't want to invest. People don't want to invest. And, look, Victor, at a point in time when you as in continuation of what Romeo said earlier, right? When you decide to continue to feed a Mukota is an animal that no matter how you feed that animal, it will not grow. When you have international standards, and these standards continue to say they are available worldwide, and these standards continue to read that you must have in 5 months an average weight between 90, 95, and 100 kilos. Okay? This is the standard. This is where you are supposed to be. All right? And when you look at yourself and you see you are doing 50, is that supposed to ring a bell? That what am I doing? A colleague in Zimbabwe is doing 80, 90 kilos, 100 kilo in 5 months. I am doing in 5 months 60. Is that not supposed to ring a bell to a serious company, a serious businessman?
Even less than that. 5 months in so many farms do less than even 40. Some do 35, some do 30.
You find people still continue putting money, and they believe that mixing PKC and feeding them restrictively or feeding them maybe 2 kilos a day would bring a solution. It won't. You are just recycling. You're just recycling money. You are recycling money. This is not business.
Okay, I'll come to the nutrition. I'll come to the nutrition part. Okay. In your introduction, you said there are three critical things that are important. You have the right genetics, you have the right feeding, and the right environment. So I want to quickly bring in Tony Wandella of Org House into this discussion, because we need to look at these things again. What are the basic things that farmers need to bear in mind whenever they want to start a pig farm? What kind of farm infrastructure is important? Sometimes back, before Tony speaks, I would like to point out something. Sometimes back, we looked at pig farming again and the kind of infrastructure that needs to be put in place. Sadly, we have so many farms that are not being structured in such a way that they can resist disease. Okay, some farms are just contraptions put together, and it makes it very difficult to organize your business operation. It makes it very difficult to control disease outbreak in the farm. So I feel like infrastructure when it comes to pig farming is something that has to be organized. It's not just putting in a large hall and you don't have control over your nursery environment, your grow environment, your finish environment, and things like this. I'll bring you in on that conversation, Tommy, but I like Tony Wandella, who is on to quickly talk about the kind of farm infrastructure that is needed for pig farmers.
Hello, guys. Hope you can hear me. So when it comes to pig farming, for example, here in Kenya, as Tommy has said about the genetics, let me touch on it a little bit. We are so much behind. We are so much behind that traceability is nothing that we can talk about, because there's no traceability, there's nothing to do about it. Look, somebody can say you have a landrace or a Duroc, but we don't know. We really don't know. We just look at the characteristics, the physical characteristics of the pigs, and we think it's a landrace or a Duroc or so on. So we're so much behind. I think our neighbors in Uganda and Zambia is where we get the pure lines, but for now, we're still much behind. I hope Tommy can work with us here in Kenya and help us get those good genetics here. So
yeah,
I'll
be in Kenya this year.
That's great. So some key infrastructure consideration for setting a pig pen, you should start with the fencing, the perimeter. Yeah. This is not even the house, the fencing, the perimeter. Like if you have money, you can construct a wall. Like you are fencing your own homestead, or you just fence it with the chain links. Have a gate and restrict movement in and out of the farm. Then you go to the shelter. So pigs need a secure and a weatherproof shelter to protect them from the elements. And then in those, you can use either concrete, you can build like a house. People can build using bricks and mortar. You can use wood or you can use metal, whichever way, but at least it should be weatherproof. Even if you're in a tight budget, there's something called drought. Drought is not good. Drought is that cold wind. It's not good for the piglets more so. And if your shelter is not okay, and you have your piglets, you should have those lights that they're called infrared lights, I think. Yeah. You use them to warm your piglets if you are very limited in the shelter, but fencing is paramount, and then you go to the shelter. And in the shelter, you should provide a constant supply of water in the shelter. Use nipples. If you can get a plumber to fix the nipples in the wall, or buy a tank with a nipple, a portable tank with a nipple, just do that. But constant supply of clean water is paramount. Then we go to feeding facility. So at least separate the feeding troughs and the water supply a little bit. The same room, maybe opposite parallel walls. Yeah. And then manure management. That is very important. We know that pigs are very clean animals. The farmer is the one who's dirty because maybe he doesn't clean the farm more regularly. But pigs will defecate in one area and then maybe sleep in one area. So you should make sure that you have a system where where they put their waste, you can easily sweep them off to a drainage where you can dispose it off. Maybe you can use it as a farmyard manure or just use it as a biogas, as I see some farmers here in Kenya do. And then you should consider spacing.
Tony, I'm sorry to cut you. I'm sorry to cut you there. Talking about manure management, I like your thoughts on the use of indigenous microorganisms, IMO, in pig pen. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, IMO are okay, but as you know, in Africa, things are becoming businesses, you know? People are selling some very shoddy stuff. Like we bought the IMO recently that doesn't work the way we were sold to. We were told it will do this and this and that. Put some sawdust there and pour. It didn't work. So I think if you find a good product, you can use it. But
okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Romeo. Romeo. IMO is an interesting area, and I think in East Africa, the idea of indigenous microorganisms kind of came from there. And then over here in West Africa, in the past months, a lot of persons have accelerated the use of indigenous microorganisms in their farms. What are your own thoughts? Have you used IMO? Are you familiar with its efficacy in manure management, or does it do what it says it does? Is it harmful to the animals? What are your thoughts on that, Romeo?
Right. I haven't used that. It's an area that I need to check on. But what I can say is, like what Tony was saying, it's very difficult to get a product these days that is very good. So that's why I ended up putting a biodigester at my farm. So, hello? There's no other way, because if you don't have a biodigester,
you did the best thing. You did the best thing.
Right.
Very
so
easy.
The biodigester was saying you will handle lots of waste on a very short period of time. So by putting a biodigester, you are not only providing yourself with the heat that you use again in the farrowing pens, you are also producing the enough gas that you can actually use on your farm. So let's put that waste to use. So let's put biodigesters. And then for those who can put fish ponds, I think you can also put fish ponds, because we know that pigs, they are not much of good digesters at some point. So you can put your biodigester, I can put fish ponds. So that's a perfect way that you can use to manage your waste on the farm. And the biodigester is saying, it's not smelly. You see, everything is enclosed. So chance of you ruining the environment for everyone, they become less and less and less. So I urge farmers to put biodigesters on their farm, as well as if you have got the capital, put fish ponds as well. I think they can also assist you in waste management. Thank you.
It's Romeo, thank you very much. Because we always look for complicated issues. You know, we look for complicated things. From talking about feeding, talking about managing of the waste. There are simple things. Instead of looking for products, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. But then instead of looking, you know, my friend there from Kenya said it earlier. Sometimes you get adulterated products. What do you call it? Solvents. You know, it's adulterated. It's a problem. So instead, because you don't get these products, you don't get these solvents as you're supposed to be getting them, make your life easy, simple. Just get the dung, get the excreta, and build a biodigester out of it. That's it. You get gas, and the residue is compost. As simple as ABC.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. And I think for manure management, we'll have to talk more extensively on the use of biodigesters. But I'd like to just switch to Tonny Wandella and allow him conclude on the issues of farm infrastructure. Go ahead, Tonny.
Thank
Tonny,
you for
are you
your,
there?
yeah. Thank you. So the last but not least, there's something called safety and security. There's physical security and safety of the pigs, where that you will find here in Kenya, farmhands, they steal from the owners of the farm, because you see, like, I'm in Western Kenya and the owner of the farm is in Nairobi. It's about 800 kilometers, an 8-hour journey. So the owner will only come once a month. We find that the farmhand is selling the piglets very cheaply to make backdoor money. So you'll find here in Kenya, people have started to embrace CCTV cameras and fencing their farm very well, and also restricting the entrance of people, because safety and security is not only about physical and theft, but also by security, as for African swine fever and other pathogenic diseases that can be spread when there's excessive in and out in the farm. So safety and security is very paramount. And then there's the location, For example, here in Kenya, different regions, there's some places that when you set a farm, you'll find that selling your pork is much more profitable than other places. So even location matters. So it is important to consider those things before putting up the infrastructure, and also ensuring that you get access to good quality feeds, of which, as Tommy has said, and Romeo, it's getting worse in Kenya, because I think it's greed or something, because you'll buy a good brand, but your pigs will not perform. So many people are starting to import feed ingredients from Uganda, but in Kenya, I don't know what's happening. So location, safety, space, manure management, feeding facilities, water supply, shelter, fencing. Those are the very basic infrastructures. Others you can upgrade according to your financial muscles, and then it's good luck to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tonny. Thank you, Tonny. And I think that really solves the problem of farm infrastructure. We'll take questions at the end of this session. We'll take questions at the end of this session. And for those who are just joining us, this Zoom session is recorded. I want it to be as interactive as possible. So you have questions for any other issue that you haven't covered. But quickly, I want us to quickly look at the issue of marketing. Because we can talk about genetics and putting all the infrastructure required, but we actually need to look at how to make the best use of, how to make the best sale possible when it comes to selling pigs. Because from where I am as a Nigerian, the Nigerian market, we are struggling with low pig prices. And in the past years, a lot of farms have actually shut down because they can't keep with the cost of feed input and administrative cost, operational expenses, and all of that. So the question is, what kind of solutions can pig farmers embrace in selling of their pig products? Because let me just give a background here. So this is how the market is in Nigeria. We have people who come, off takers kind of, who come to the farms. They buy the pork, live pigs for maybe about less than $2 for a kg of live weight. It's about, some places in Nigerian currency we have 900, between 900 to 950, 850 and thereabout, but definitely less than $2. It's a problem for most farmers because this price does not cover the inputs they are making. And we have to now look at it again and say, what kind of, how can pig farmers optimize? A lot of farmers have brought about solutions like creating their own slaughter, processing their pigs themselves, and issues like this. I want to bring Romeo into this discussion, okay? The best solution, how do you sell your pigs to make enough profits, to make enough money to cover your operational costs and still have profit left?
Right.
How do you
Here, I'm based in Victoria Falls, and I was blessed by the fact that as soon as COVID ended, the tourist market, it opened up. So it was actually good on our side. Why? Because we end up selling pigs that are barely 3 months old. We call those speed pigs, and they fetch for around $6 per kg. So it becomes very profitable on our side. Why? Because we are rolling out pigs that are still very young at a very good price, which is around $6. And then if you get a better price, around $6.20, $6.30 per kilogram. So on that part, it's very good. And then also what I did is I ended up putting up a butchery. And then if you look at that butchery, we are selling diversified products, which are pork products, from the boerewors sausages to the polony to the bacons and all. So that's a one-stop shop for our product, which is coming from the farm. So if all farmers can adopt that, maybe it might seem profitable. But then if you've got small scale farmers now that are not producing so much, I'm sure if you attack the market as a cooperative, it becomes very easy for you to get big clients. If you go by yourself saying I'm selling maybe 2 or 3 pigs, you won't get that response on the market. But if you're a cooperative and then you are maybe rolling out 20, 30 pigs per week, it becomes easy. Why? Because you just go with your pigs, you slaughter them, and then you bring them on the market. You share the profit. But then now most farmers, they're a bit greedy, and then they don't want to work together. And if they don't work together, then at the end of the day, it's the farmer who's going to suffer. So farmers need to unite and then attack the market as a united force. You see that you boot out all these big players. Why? Because you see that those big players, they're simply putting in manufacturing pigs on the market. A pig that is a sow that is maybe gave birth to 3, 4, 7 times. That's the one that they're putting on the market. They are big players, so they control the market. So farmers need to unite. The moment farmers unite, you see that it becomes easy for you to control and also put a price on your product. Why? Because you are now putting a good quality product at a very good, which is very fresh. So farmers need to unite. I think that's the only way that they can attack a market. Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, Tommy, I saw you nod in approval when Romeo spoke about cooperative farming system in terms of selling food. You want to add something to what you said?
Yes. Look, if you make a profile, I'm talking about Nigeria right now, okay? Because that was your question. Make a profile of the Nigerian pig production industry. How many farmers in the present structure can easily supply a place like Sheraton Hotel in Lagos? Is it possible? Can Sheraton Hotel buy pigs from a cross section of the current Nigerian farmers? I don't think so, because the quality is not there. I saw some pigs and I saw some cuttings. Nobody will buy those things. So evidently, what remains? What remains for the Nigerian farmer? What remains for the, please mute everybody. Mute everybody, Victor. Because there are some, yeah, thank you. Because right now, the market is struggling to, and has limited output, clientele base. Okay, those people that are coming to buy, they have the buying power, not even the selling power here. They have the buying power. So you have to sell at that price because they are the one coming to buy. Because the quality is not there. The quality is not there to be able to approach in terms of quality places like Sheraton, places like big hotels that serve dishes, barbecues with relative price sizes that can be easily sold to their clients. So at the end of the day, who do you have to sell to? You have to sell to whoever comes to your farm. As I am not a crusader of cooperatives, but I definitely support association of producers. Okay, cooperatives in Europe is bad news. Okay, because there is always an issue. So I am not for cooperatives. I know what it means to operate under a cooperative system. However, there is a better system, that will do better, according to what Romeo said earlier, which is an association of producers. Okay, let's think large about that. Okay, and let's create the quantity and the quality. Then the market is there.
So I want Tonny Wandella to quickly comment on this issue. What's the best strategy? Do you think farmers putting themselves together as an economic unit, maybe geographically, can better negotiate, improve prices, better prices for themselves? And what other solutions, what are the Kenyans doing to get better pig prices?
Yeah, okay, thank you. So about pig prices, as Romeo said before, greed. People want to sell pigs on their own to make money for themselves. So the middlemen or the butcheries, they are buying pigs at a throwaway price. You will be surprised. Pig farmers are not making money in Kenya. They're just recycling money, as Tomi said. Because when it comes to pig farming, the butcheries that they buy the pork, for example, they have association. If you go in the whole of Kenya, the selling price of pork varies slightly from place to place, because those people who control the butcheries or who own the butcheries have come together and they say, we're going to sell pork at this price. For example, in Kenyan shillings now, they sell pork to you if you are buying from them to cook in your house. You can buy for, I think, 400 Kenyan shillings. But you'll see they'll buy a kilo from a farmer for even as little as 70 Kenyan shillings. It's that bad. And it's because somebody is desperate. I need school fees. Oh, I have a funeral. Oh, I need to go for a wedding. I need to buy something. I need something. So it's like people are putting money in pigs as a storage. as a saving account. So when they have an emergency, they sell the pig. So they always sell because of desperation. So the price is pathetic. The price is very pathetic and ununiform. I can sell and if you sell your pork for a reasonable amount to give you profit, they will not buy from you, the butcheries, because they have hundreds of other desperate farmers. You see, if you tell them I'm going to sell to you my pigs because you're selling at 400, I'm going to sell at you maybe 300 or 350. They won't touch your pigs. They're going to buy that the one who's buying for selling for 70 shillings. And it doesn't matter if the pig is 15 kilograms live weight, they don't care. They just buy pork. They just pick here one, pick here two, pick here three, put it in the freezer, and then they sell. They make profit. So farmers are suffering in Kenya. Please, Tomi, when you come to Kenya, the pig industry is very bad. And it's why I started Hoga, because it's out of experience. It's brutal here in Kenya. It's very, very brutal. Thank you.
Yeah, my friend, it's brutal all over the world. Don't worry, but there are solutions. This is it's not only Victor. This is not only an African affair. It's all over the world. So farmers all over the world, they face the same problems. Okay, that is why I see all these things. I can recognize all these things. My friend in Kenya is talking about. It happens in Europe also. But then there are ways to go around it, like the Balkan type. The Balkan type is you have a family business, a family pig unit, all right, and you also have a butchery, all right. You sell your own product in front of your house. Well, I think I said this thing somewhere in Abuja, somewhere earlier this year. And I asked people, how many of your friends that you are a pig farmer, how many of your friends know you have pigs? How many are advertising their own products so that they can feed their own immediate community? There was an issue because people don't really believe in what they are doing. So yeah, they don't advertise their own product. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're very correct. You're spot on there. We have a marketing problem when it comes to pig. We have a marketing problem. We have a market problem. You see a lot of farmers who own pig farms. They don't consume pork. You have to start from there. Some of them would sell their pigs and take that money to go and buy beef or chicken or whatever. It usually amazes me because if you don't have conviction in what you are doing and the kind of product you are doing, then what are you doing that for? Sometimes because of bad management practices, a lot of farmers can't even eat what they produce. So they send it back to off-takers or to any other butcher to take care of it. So we have a market problem. And I think maybe it has improved in the past years, but we are still not where we are supposed to be. And we'll fully address that because that's a very big discussion, a massive discussion on its own. But I want to come down to an area I feel a lot of persons are interested in, the area of nutrition. Everybody wants to find the cheapest possible solution to feed pigs. And I've always said it. I said, look, with the way things are, especially with the cost of farm inputs now, feed inputs now, it is not possible for us to, it's not realistic for you to feed pigs the way you feed maybe 2-3 years ago. Things have gone up.
Yes.
Things have gone up, and we must adapt to this reality. We must adapt to this reality. But there is no, and I've told a lot of farmers, there is no general solution when it comes to swine nutrition. And people say, oh, I'm looking for a solution. Everything has to be tailored, custom made to your farm and your unique business experience. Okay, so I want to bring you, Tommy, into this issue of nutrition because you have been an advocate of farmers not dabbling into nutrition issues, and I totally understand where you're coming from. But let's talk about small scale farmers, okay? Family farms in Nigeria that do not have the funds to recruit nutritionists or do not really have the funds to buy ready-made feed in the market. What kind of solution can you offer to these farmers?
Yeah, Victor, it is very easy for small scale farmers that do not have the economic, no, the infrastructure to have feed mills, to have issues like this. And look, let's be realistic. If you have less than 200 sows, you don't have anything to do with a feed mill because it's not economically realistic. Let's be frank. You have less than 200 sows and you want to own a feed mill. It's not realistic. Because look, you are wasting time looking for lysine, you are looking time looking for premix, you are wasting time trying to buy PKC, you are wasting time looking for maize, and you have animals there. Who is looking after those animals? My friend in Kenya just said that even farm attendants are selling animals away. Why? Because the farmers are not in the farm. The owners are not there when they can possibly be. So why should you own a premise? And this is my personal, I don't know, because I believe that each of these farms can speak or get in touch with a mill, a feed mill. There's always one around somewhere. There's one around somewhere, maybe 5 kilometers, maybe 10, maybe 15 kilometers away from you. There's always one. Arrange with them. Let them, give them, buy your premix and give it to them. Especially, you know, I always prefer poultry feed mills. Poultry feed mills are the best. You know why? Because the poultry industry, they are much more organized. Let's be frank. They are much more organized. They have mycotoxin checkers. They check the maize that they buy. They check the soybeans that they buy. Because with the chicken, you don't make mistakes, my brother. My brother, you don't make mistakes. All right. So why should you not take advantage of that and negotiate with them to bring in your premix and let them mix for you? How many sows do you have that you want to go and own a feed mill? And mind you, all this buying here and there, 2 kilos of lysine, 1 sack of this one here and there, you start dividing your time around, and you are traveling around. People don't even calculate the number of time they spend on all these things. All right, they don't calculate the number of time they spend on all these things. And in how do you call it? And the worst is that when they have done all these things, they now start feeding bad genetics. You understand? They now start feeding bad genetics, and that animal, this mucota, will now eat the whatever they bought, and then it will pass it down for them like excreta, you know, dung. And they start picking the maize from inside because the animal is not what it's supposed to be. So what have you done? Nothing.
Okay. So it's
so this is my view. My view is look for you cannot pay a nutritionist. Okay, you can't. But then you have companies. You have poultry companies that are already there. They are much more organized. Let's recognize this. They are much more organized. But you cannot tell me you want to use a poultry starter premix for pigs because it's foul from the beginning. It's foul. okay? But you can organize with them. You bring in your premix to them, let them mix it for you. You will probably pay a widow's mite for the service they will render for you, okay? Buy a little bit of maize from them because it's super. It's super maize. And let's make things easy, simple, very simple. Maize and soya beans. This is the basic food for pigs. When you start mixing and try looking for Maradona style and all these things you do, then you start complicating issues. And when you don't get result or you start getting serving problems, then it's, then we start blaming other things. It doesn't work like this. Okay, keeping it simple. Thank you.
I want to bring in other members of this program, not just the panelists now, because nutrition is a major problem. We did a survey, and 9 out of 10 farmers have problems with feeding of their pigs. And so the floor is open now. I want people to, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. We'll try to moderate this as possible. Let's get farmers' feedback on nutrition problems and have a group discussion on this. So if you have any question specifically related to nutrition, I'll take the question. The very first person here is Shore Point Farms. So Shore Point Farms, you have the floor. Go ahead and unmute yourself now.
Okay. Thank you for the privilege and for this section. Well, when it comes, I want to ask, like in my area here in the Akwa Ibom here in Nigeria, instead of to be specific, majorly what we use here is PKC and wheat over. And a few farmers also use the rice bran, and some try to maximize cost by using Spain grain. So what I want to ask is, this feed that we have locally here, from your experience as an expert, do you think they are nutritive enough for good meat production? That's what I want to ask.
Okay, so I'll allow Romeo respond to this question before I respond. Romeo, what's your thoughts on feeding pigs rice bran, palm kernel, cake, and wheat over? What are your thoughts?
Right. I am not so sure what kernel you're talking about or rice bran, but the moment you hear the term bran, it means we have removed most of the carbohydrates. So then the moment you start removing carbohydrates from that, then you are left with the bran. Then it's no longer as nutritive as it's supposed to be. You are now feeding your pigs with roughage. And if you feed your pigs with roughage, then at the end of the day, they're going to have come on, Tony. So they're going to have twisted gut in the day, and they're going to die. And sometimes they don't perform well. So the moment you start giving them bran, we have removed the carbohydrate component from that product. You are not giving them much of the roughage. So farmers are advised that they are supposed to stick to the basic. If you've got sorghum, give them the sorghum mixed with the soya. If you've got maize, give them the maize mixed with the soya. Do not try to cut corners, not try to do these funny things. If you want to take piggery as a business, you need to make sure that you give the pigs the feed that they're supposed to eat. Because the moment you start cutting corners, giving them this and that, then you're no longer taking it as a business. You are now a mere subsistence farmer. We need to change our mindset.
Yeah, of course. That's an identity. Subsistence farming.
Over to you, Tony.
You see, I'm just subliming you. Perfect. You just said it. Subsistence farmers.
Yes, so we need to run away from that mindset. Yes. So if you want to take it as a business, let's give the pigs the meal that they're supposed to eat. If it means you go on the net, you take the mixing ratios, mixing formulations, could do that, and then you put the right ingredients to make the right feed and you give the pigs. please, let's not cut corners, because the moment we start cutting corners, we are no longer the farmers that are supposed to be. We are now subsistence farmers. You might as well just leave them and then feed on their own. I think that is what I can.
That's better. Yeah. Leave them in the backyard.
So I'll respond to the question by referring to what Tony said some times back about the fact that the problem is pig farming is profitable, we agree, but the reality is, do farmers really make profit from pig farming? That question, I think very, very few farmers actually make decent income from pig farming. Mostly what we see is people recycling their money in the pig farming business. So that's a major problem. And then if you trace the problem to its root causes, you look at the area of genetics and then the area of nutrition. And then the question by Short Point Farms, I think feeding PKC, we need to understand that these are industrial byproducts, feed byproducts, feed waste, okay? PKC is a waste product. Rice bran is even worse, because these days you don't even get anything from it. So that's a waste product. What else again did you mention? We mentioned PKC, rice bran, and something else. Wheat over.
And waste bran, waste from beer factory.
Yeah, wheat over itself again is a waste product. So
they're all waste. All three are waste.
Yeah. So if you are building your feed plan around this waste product, then it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult for you to get sustained growth. We're not talking about growth of selling pigs once in 10 months, like the other gentleman that was on this Zoom meeting 2 days ago, that sells pigs once in 11 months, or it takes the farm 11 months to get to market weight. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about you setting a realistic timeline, something that has business sense, maybe 5 to 7 months, 6 months on average to sell your animals at average weight of 70 to 80 kilo. You can't do that using PKC. And that is the honest truth. You can't do that using rice bran. I mean, I'm a Nigerian and I'm a Nigerian farmer. So even when we try to cut costs, these materials are within the definitions of what we call fillers. So you use them to create volume for the feed, okay? But they are not essentially what will drive the animal growth. They're not what will drive the animal's growth. What would drive the animal growth?
In a nutshell, Victor, sorry, yeah? In a nutshell,
yeah.
75–80% of your feed, Short Point Farms, should be maize, soya, and pig premix. You can, for the other 25% or 20% that remains, you can choose. You can choose what you want. But basically, 80% of your feed should be soya, maize, corn, maize, those two, all right? And with soya. Then do whatever you want with it, 15–20% you want after, for fattening, okay? If you're not doing something like that, then you are far away from what you're supposed to be doing.
But I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this again, because when we talk about these feed ingredients, we need to go back to what the animal really needs. And then you need to understand the animal needs carbohydrates, source of energy. The animal needs a source of protein. So what you as a pig farmer will do is to look at the feed ingredients and look at the prices available for you, what you can do to supply those ingredients. And then you try to look for those base materials, try to look for those real materials. Then you start from there. You don't start from PKC and then you end up with a little bit of maybe 10, 20. We've said something about nutrition in the last discussion. Now we said, look, pigs do not fare well with fiber. And the truth is, when it comes to the Nigerian environment or just everywhere, fiber feed ingredients are the cheapest. So farmers go for the cheapest, they go for fiber. But fiber and pigs' growth, it won't give you what you want. So what you need to do is You need to know what are your sources of energy, what are your sources of protein, and then you look for those materials that will supply those things, the real materials. PKC is a filler, right vine is a filler, Utovad is a filler. You know, we use it to fill and create volume, but the real materials have to be there. All right. So I don't think, in conclusion, I don't think PKC, rice brand, Utovad can guarantee sustained animal growth. So can we take another question? If you have any other question, a follow-up question you can ask. If not, I'll take questions from order. You can just unmute yourself. Okay, so I have a question on the group forum. What if one uses hydroponic maize fodder? Okay, so Romeo is the hydroponic expert here. Following his work on hydroponics, I'd like to bring Romeo in on the use of hydroponics to reduce feeding costs. Romeo.
Hello. Right. If you are going to go the hydroponics way, what we've done is there's a water fan, which is called Azolla. Then there's another one, which is called the duckweed. Research has shown that it has got around 22% crude protein, and that is digestible. And then the question was, what if I use hydroponic maize fodder? If you look at the hydroponic maize fodder, what are we giving to the plant? I mean, to the animal. Do we have enough protein there? Do we have enough vitamins there? Do we have enough carbohydrate there? So you need to balance the feed as a farmer. So if you do with your duckweed, you are not only going to give the duckweed on its own, because you are giving the crude protein. What about the carbohydrate content? It's supposed to be given as well. So let's also include the carbohydrate content. Why? Because our animal is supposed to be given a balanced feed for it to perform well. You can have good genetics, but if you don't give the animal a balanced feed, then we are not doing anything as farmers. So let's make sure that in whatever we do, look at the nutritional value of what you want to give your pig. And then check, is it going to provide all the necessary nutrients that are needed by the pig? If not, then find those other components that are missing, include them in the diet so that you give the pig a balanced diet. So go and do your research as a farmer. Nowadays, there's plenty of technology. Check on the nutrition of whatever you want to give your pig. If there's something missing in that, make sure you find a way of including it in the diet, be it the salts, be it the vitamins, be it the carbohydrates, the proteins. All those things are supposed to be there in their rightful quantities.
Exactly.
Why? Because if the quantities are wrong, then there is no growth that is going to take place again. So we need to be very careful as farmers on what you're giving, whether it's hydroponic Azolla. Azolla is good as a protein supplement. Whether it's duckweed, it's good as a protein supplement. But then what about the carbohydrate component? It's supposed to be also included there. So I cannot give them Azolla only. I cannot give them maize fodder only. There are some components that are missing that are supposed to be included in that diet. Thank you.
Very well said.
Thank you, Romeo. I think this is going somewhere. We are going somewhere with this. You can unmute yourself and ask questions related to farm nutrition. Okay, so we have another question here. Concerning F1, is it land grass bois and large white sow, or large white bois and land grass sow? So I'll think Tommy can respond to that.
F1, you know, exactly what you have said. For me, they are the same. All right. Either the boar can either be a landrace or a large white. So, which means when it's a landrace boar, then definitely the sow is a certified with pedigree large white. Okay. So when the boar is a large white, then the female must have to be a landrace, both certified with pedigrees. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, the crossing of these two will give you the F1. All right. Yes, it's correct. So both you can do either of these, either a landrace crossing, a large white gilt, or Oh, yeah, or the other way around. So it's up to you or what you have available. In any case, just make sure that your pure lines are certified. They are not picked or they said, or it has a flappy hair, or it has a wide nose or something like that, identified by an expert or somebody that's been in the industry for maybe 5, 10, 6 years. It doesn't work like that. Usually these pure lines are certified. So when you have, when they are certified, they also have an history, okay? They have the grandmother's performance, they have the father's, the grandparents' performance, and the parents' performance. They're all there to show you what she is going to do. Okay, so, and one other thing, very, very important in piggery, and I think I've noticed it generally in African piggery, when you have questions and you have issues that need to be answered that is not clear to you, the choice of the people you ask goes a long way in getting the required answer. When you are new in the industry and you are asking somebody 5 years in the industry that is also struggling, you will get the result of his struggle. All right, this is very, very important. So when you have a problem, you must know whom to ask, or else you will fall into the same ditch that he is struggling to get out from. All right, and most of the times we are talking about a lot of money. This is a business. It's not a joke. It's a business.
So let's take more questions. I'm
Please
sure
mute,
we'll
please
have
mute, Victor,
Um,
please mute.
yeah, everyone is muted. So
No,
I'm sure we have people who have questions related to farm nutrition. It's an area that borders a lot of farmers, considering the issues of low pig prices and how farmers can continue to remain competitive. So I'd like to take more questions related to farm nutrition, because like I've always said, I'm not going to come out and give a blanket solution for feeding pigs. There is no blanket solution. You have your problem, okay? You have your specific location. So we need to look at where you are. We need to look at your specific problem and then look at how we can address it. Some farmers have problems with a nursery feed management, with winner pigs. Someone sent me a private message about having good animals, relatively good animals that are doing well, but the piglets are struggling, so that shows you that the feeding is bad, okay, for the piglets, because when it comes to pigs, piglets feed is one of the most important. Piglet and lactating sow feed is actually very important. So people have different kind of problems. So we do not advocate a blanket solution. We like to take every problem on its own, treat every problem on its own. So we'll take more questions if there are questions regarding farm nutrition. Okay, so you can unmute yourself and ask a question. All right, so I'm taking it that we do not have questions on nutrition. But briefly, before we go to the next area of discussion, nutrition, feeding pigs is a large area. It's a large area. But what I always say is, for you to get the best, you need to approach this issue from quality genetics. If you don't have good animals, then they won't give you a good result.
It's a waste.
You end up spending a lot of money on feed. You can even buy all the maize in town. You can buy all the soya bean in town, and then the animals are not giving you an excellent conversion rate. So that's a problem. because we have, and I think where we have a lot of problems with farmers is you're not setting good business-wise goals for the farm. I think that's, you can quickly get lost in the problems of pig farming, the day-to-day operations of the farm. If you do not have a kind of a KPI to know that this is exactly where you want your piglets to be in a month, where you want your grower to be in a month, you know, where you want your piglet mortality to be, where you want your general farm mortality to be. This kind of things help for you to assess your performance. And I think going forward, this is an area that needs to be looked at. You need to look at setting yourself goals and targets and indices that you can use to evaluate your general farm performance. Because it's okay to talk about feeding, but in what are you using to gauge to know that you're actually getting a good result? Because for some farmers, a good result is sending out the animals to the slaughter every 11 months. For them, they'll tell you, that my father has been in pig farming for 50 years, and this is what we have been doing. So for 50 years, the continuous practice is to sell food every 11 months. For some farmers, they even do it at maybe 1 year and a half. You know, for some farms, they have 8 months, 9 months goal. So whatever you are doing, as far as pig farming is concerned, you need to have something that you can put your performance side by side to know if you're on the right track or if you are not on the right track. And that's why Tommy mentioned a critical area, and he said you have to be careful where you get your advice from. And that is the truth. Personal experience, you know, because I manage a large farm with over 800 pigs, and then we were talking about the issues of feeding, and then people now started bringing in a lot of advice, that I felt it's not even realistic. Someone says, okay, that some other farms are feeding their pigs with PKC and blood, just PKC and cow blood, and that is cheap, and they are getting the results. You know, without any data, without any hard data to back the point, they said, look, farmers are feeding PKC and blood. They are using local material. And then we are doing maize and whatever. And those farmers who are doing PKC and blood are getting results, while we are wasting a lot of money, we are still getting the same result that they are getting. It is a problem. You know, because one thing I know is that as far as pig farming is concerned, there'll always be a lot of opinion. One thing you need to do is to know how to manage the opinions that come to your farm. PKC and blood is a popular nutritional solution for most farms in the southeast and maybe in the south. I don't know about the southwest, but I know a lot of farmers feel that all they need to do is to soak PKC, put blood on it, cow blood, without processing it, and then at the end of the day, they feed the pigs. And there is a danger to this kind of solution. People don't talk about it. Every nutritional solution has its own danger. So we need to look at this thing again. And I said there is no blanket solution to that. I want to bring Romeo in because Romeo, I'm sure he just came back from the farm. And Romeo, what's your feeding regimen like? What's your feed plan like? You have a lot of pigs on the farm. You have piglets, you have winners. What are the kind of feed ingredients you use in your farm? You have to unmute. You have to unmute yourself. You are muted.
Sorry for that. So what we have is we've got plenty of maize. Some of it we produce, some of it we buy. So that's our main carbohydrate component. And then as for the protein component, we have got the soya, which is the SC soya, that treated soya. And then we buy the vitamin packs. So those are the three things that we use. We don't want to complicate things. We want to keep simple. So if ever now there is need for maybe supplementation, that's why now we can just give our Zola and then our duckweed. So that is mainly for supplement. The main feed is composed of the maize,
Corn.
the soya, as well as the what, as well as the vitamin packs. So that's what we give our pigs.
Okay, thank you. Tony has been silent. I want Tony to comment on this, because what the job is doing at Olga Hota.
Tony is not silent. He's been working on emojis.
Okay,
he's been talking with emoji.
All right. Okay. So Mr. Wandella, what's your thoughts on
Okay, about feeding, as you are all agreed, it's not complicated. It's never complicated, and it will never be complicated because pigs need carbohydrates, proteins, and vitamins. Maize, carbohydrates. Soybean, heat-treated protein. Vitamin, you can buy a premix or supplements from the agrovet. It's finished. You do your ration. The problem here is when it comes to farming, we don't reinvest in our farms. You see, I have 8 pigs I'm taking to the market. Okay, yeah. So I'll sell all the 8, I make some money, but you see, I'll spend half of the profit to buy myself a phone. You see? And there are other pigs that are coming up. I need to feed them. I've not factored in that I should plow back the money. Even if somebody owns a car importing business, you cannot import 4 cars, sell them, get the money for all the 4 cars, and then use that half of the money to build yourself a home, a house, and then you say, okay, my car business is struggling. Why don't you plow it back until it really generates real profit? Thank you. Okay.
Okay. What a lot of persons want to know, and I think we need to respond to this question definitively. What a lot of farmers want to know is maize is expensive, soybean is expensive. Must I go with this feed ingredients, considering the cost of pig prices now in the market? Tommy,
let me put it.
Can we afford to do maize and soybean?
Yes, let me tell you something. Maize is the primary raw material for feeding pigs, whether we like it or not. Soya is the primary protein source for pigs, whether we like it or not. Okay, let's go look at it in another way.
What about cassava?
Just a moment. I'm going there. I know where you're going. I know. I am also a disciple of local sourcing. Okay. I am also a disciple of sourcing local raw materials to replace. Okay. I am so for that you can never imagine. However, what is the opportunity cost? What am I replacing what with? And what's the value that your cassava brings to the table as against the maize? What is the price of maize as against the price of the cassava? What is the nutritional content that cassava is giving the pigs? What is the digestibility that the cassava is bringing? All these things can be answered by a nutritionist, not by every Dick and Harry. That is why we say you have to speak every now and then with a nutritionist because it's their job. You don't have to hire one. it's as simple as just meeting one nutritionist in your area. Go to Ibadan, go to Lagos. You will find a feed company that has a nutritionist in its payroll. Just ask questions. Saying you want to put cassava peel to replace corn, from the little I remember, it's impossible. You can include cassava, yes, but you cannot get rid of corn if you want to do good business. If your animals can make use, if your animals are what they are supposed to be, okay, I'm taking that for granted. Okay, if there are all these animals from Facebook, then go ahead. All right, if you have what it takes and you are a business person, you cannot replace corn 1-for-1 with cassava. This is clear. You cannot replace corn 1-for-1 with, tell me whatever you have there, what you can think of that has carbohydrate. You cannot replace soya 1-for-1 with groundnut cake. Groundnut cake is good. It's oily. It has some good, but then yes, it can supplement. You can reduce soya. You have to go. You take it step by step. You need research. We established this in the previous Zoom webinar we had. There's need for research. There are nutritional factors. Nobody talks about that. Okay, it has 5% protein. Just let it go. It doesn't work like that. Is it digestible for pigs? You don't know. PKC on one that we are talking about, it's as bad for pigs, and it's so good for ruminants. It's so good for ruminants because they will digest it, but for pigs it doesn't work. It's as simple as that. So I believe in sitting down with a nutritionist and analyzing these issues. We shouldn't just take decisions just like that by heart, and then we jeopardize all the money and all the effort we are putting in this business, because it's a business. If you come and tell me that it's a subsistence farm that my friend Romeo said before, then it's another different ball game. Just take the remains from your table and throw it to them, and stop wasting money. Let's be frank.
I'm just going to add to this for the benefit of a lot of farmers who are aggressively pursuing the idea of using feed alternatives as a way of coping with rising food costs. There are a number of issues, that we need to engage with nutritionists, and that's why we always, when people come, we say, okay, let's have a tete-a-tete. There's no blanket solution. When you move away from the conventional feed material, the feed ingredients, and you want to go to alternatives, waste materials, it's a good solution, but there are other considerations that we need to have in mind. Tommy has said digestibility is a key concern, because there are so many things we are feeding our animals with that they simply do not have the capacity to digest them. Let's not forget that pigs are monogastric animals, single stomach animals, not like ruminants, not like cows, that they fare well with fiber. So when we are looking for food alternatives, and we know that most of these food alternatives are going to have a lot of fiber, then we need to be able to assess the extent to which these animals can digest these feed materials. That's the key concern. To what extent can they digest it? Or to what extent can you include it that these animals can digest it? Do you need a helper? Maybe you need an enzyme to digest it. What kind of enzyme do you need to improve the digestibility of these ingredients that you are using? Another area, of course, is the issue of toxins. Because once you deviate from some of these conventional feed ingredients, you have to start dealing with the problems of toxins. And then we also said toxins can manifest themselves, the negative effect of toxins can manifest themselves silently as inhibit growth in the farms. So there are a lot of variables, and then these are the things that we need to look at, a lot of variables that we need to look at before we start engaging with feeding with it. But if we can look at these variables and we can find a way of dealing with these issues, then my own personal opinion, we can start incorporating some of the feed ingredients. Romeo has mentioned things like duckweed, things like azola, things like hydroponics maize soda. I've tried hydroponics a couple of times. I think it's good. But the thing is, hydroponic maize soda is not going to be the feed. It's not like that's your primary animal feed. It's something you use to supply the animals with other nutrients and all of that. So people think that, okay, if I do hydroponics maize fodder, I don't need to start buying premixes or start making dry feed. So that's something we need to bear in mind. We can still ask questions related to farm nutrition, but if we don't have questions, we'll quickly look at one area that we need to look at. This is the area of biosecurity, how we can protect our farms from African swine fever and other threatening swine diseases. The thing is this, we are all talking about African swine fever. Yes, it's a deadly disease with 100% mortality when it happens, but there are other swine diseases that are actually very deadly as well. Things like PRRS that leads to a lot of economic loss to farmers and all of that. So there's something I want to talk about before going to the area of biosecurity. I think from experience that the first defense a farmer has against disease is nutrition and management, daily management, hygiene. That's your first defense against swine disease. Because the moment you err in terms of the quality and quantity of feed to be given to the animals, then of course they start coming up with weakening the immune system, and they can easily fall sick. The rate at which farmers compensate for poor feeding with the high use of antibiotics is alarming. I mean, I've seen a lot of farmers, any small thing, antibiotic, any small thing, gentamicin, any small thing, we are just injecting these animals. We have to remember that this is something that a human being will eat. And if you look at most of these drugs, they have withdrawal period. Most farmers don't know this. They have withdrawal period. So someone can give an animal ivermectin today, and tomorrow they kill the animal from it. What we don't understand is it's a big problem for a big safety issue, and then we start talking about, we have seen people talking about exporting pork from Nigeria or any other country for that matter. We cannot even start engaging at that level where we have not even solved this issue, because these are quality control issues that we need to talk about. So the issues of diseases can be proactively addressed with quality hygiene and quality nutrition. I'd like to bring in Romeo on this area to comment briefly on what we just discussed. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Right, you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Right. So we are talking about biosecurity. My friend from Kenya, they mentioned the first important thing that's supposed to be on a farm, which is your fence. Right. If you don't have a fence, it means everyone is going to have access to your pigsty. Anyone who wants to go there, they've got access to that pigsty. and that can cause serious issues on the health of your pigs. So farmers need to invest on the fence. That's the first thing. And then from there on, you need to make sure that you're in an area, if you're in an area that has got wild pigs, those ones are the major transfer vectors of your African swine fever. They are carriers of that pathogen. So you need to make sure that you've got your fence, and your fence is supposed to be installed by someone who knows what they're doing. Why? Because if they don't install it properly, then you're going to have challenges. It includes the depth of the fence itself on the ground. So someone needs to install it, and they're supposed to make sure that they do a good job, because if they don't do it, those wild boars, they're just simply going to dig under, then come and infect your pigs. So you need to make sure that you've got a proper fence. And then from there on, if you look at your gates, they're supposed to be always your food bags. If you don't have your food bags as well as your wheel bags, then it means someone can just come in and then also be the transfer of a pathogen from wherever they're coming from to your farm. And then as a farmer who is into pigs, you need to also to limit your movements to other piggery institutions. Why? Because you don't know the kind of diseases that are there. And the moment you go there, make sure that you bath, whatever you're putting on, you make sure that you wash it thoroughly. Why? Because you don't know what you are carrying. Even if you are carrying your meats, make sure you don't defecate in your surrounding areas. Why? Because you might be a transferer of a pathogen. And then as for African swine fever, there are some signs and symptoms that farmers need to look into. If you see your pigs having high fevers, if you see your pigs with loss of appetite, weakness, reddish skin, some lesions, coughing, diarrhea, vomiting, those are some of the major signs and symptoms of African swine fever. And here in Zimbabwe, we call those notifiable diseases, which means someone who is into animal health, they're supposed to be notified on those signs and symptoms, so at least they take the next step. Then the moment you notify whoever is into livestock husbandry, some things are supposed to be done. If it means culling your pigs, they are going to be culled. If it means quarantining them, they're supposed to be quarantined for the sake of other pig farmers that are surrounding your farm. And then also you need to be able to participate in national programs that are there to control a major disease such as the African swine fever. If it means you coming in, putting in some efforts in the controlling of African swine fever, then it's supposed to be done. Why? Because if it's not done, then everyone is going to be affected. So farmers need to participate in national programs that are being put up to control various diseases. Then I'm happy that I think I was reading an article. It was on the establishment of a vaccine for African swine fever. It's going to take time, right? Because of the nature of the virus. They say it's double-stranded. This genome is double-stranded, and it makes it very difficult to come up with a vaccine. So I'm happy that a vaccine is coming up. So farmers also need to vaccinate their pigs in order for them not to get sick wherever there's whenever there's a pathogen. I mean, whenever there's a crisis. So farmers need to be well versed with what is happening out there when it comes to disease. And also they need to maintain high levels of hygiene. If farmers don't maintain high levels of hygiene on their farms, then there's a problem. How do you handle a sick animal? If the animal is sick, you need to make sure that you quarantine it, you put it in a quarantine bay, so at least you know that you've segregated from other animals, so that you are able to monitor that pig. You're able to treat it so at least it doesn't spread its infections to other pigs. So as a farmer, you need to be having that insight. You need to be knowing your disease. Why? Because the moment you don't know the signs and symptoms, you need to read wide. Why? Because it actually assists you as a farmer to actually control the disease on a farm level. Then those things that you are not able to control, that's where now you call assistance from the people who are able to assist you. I think that is all I can say.
All right. So I think we've been able to look at some very important issues. going into pig farming, and we may not have exhaustively touched everything, and we've arrived at a definite conclusion with regards to genetics. And we say genetics is important. Genetics is the foundation for a profitable farm venture. You move to the next issue, to the issues of nutrition. Nutrition is a complicated discussion. There is no simple solution. As much as we want to use feed byproduct, we need to be able to look at all other variables attached to it. We've also looked at the issue of biosecurity and disease control in the farm. All right, so I'd like to take some closing words from panelists on this discussion. If you have questions, there's still room for you to ask the question, but we're coming to the end of this webinar. So I'd like to take closing remarks from Tomi, Tonny, Wandella, and then Romeo.
Closing remark. Hello, am I being heard?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Tommy.
Okay. Closing remark is that for a profitable pig meat business, you need to have the proper animals, okay? Because you need to have the proper animals. These animals have to be bred under very, very good conditions, all right? And be given the correct feed for them, not what the farmer thinks, all right? The correct feed for them, okay? Based on the standards that required for these animals to be fed, all right? Now, if you are new in this industry or you are just starting, please ask the right people. Don't just start asking anybody about different issues that they themselves are finding issues in solving. All right, because you find out that you are going to be in the same ditch with them. So do your research and ask the right people, ask the professionals, ask whoever you think will get the correct information from. All right, the internet is available right now, and you can easily speak or get in touch with credible information. Get access to credible information. All right. Having said that, I wish everybody a very prosperous year ahead, 2023. And the big industry, and this is how it should be seen. Is in no way a subsistence farm. You cannot treat it like a subsistence farm. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, before I bring in Tony on his concluding remarks, someone asked a question on the chat. Can you give us a combination of feeds for the animals? I wonder how we can interpret this question right now, but I just want Romeo to just go through, attempt to respond to this question. Okay, I think there's a follow-up question here. Can you give us the combination of feeds for the animals? I mean, in percentages. What I think what we can do is to look at maybe the feed nutrients, not the ingredients, because like we said, there are nutrients, what the animal needs, and then ingredients to supply the nutrients. So, Romeo, can you just give a basic rundown for, let's say, a grower pig? In terms of percentages, what the animal will, a grower pig. You're mute. Unmute yourself, Romeo.
Sorry for that. So I was saying I don't have the specific figures as yet on pig grower meal, but I think your carbon is supposed to be in the range of around, should be 69% thereabout. And then your protein, I think around the range of around 20 something, and then your vitamin around 4%. So I've got the chart. I think I can send it to you. Then you can forward to other people on the compositions of all those feeds. From winter meal, grow meal, to I think I can send it to you. There's no problem there.
Okay, so there's a question here, examples of feeds for each categories. What we have said and what we have always emphasized is every animal has, different, based on their category. We have winner meal, we have grower, we have finisher. We can even go beyond that to start having lactating meal, meal for breeding bulls and all of that. We can even go beyond that. So that's just the basic thing. And each of these meal has different energy requirements, protein requirements, and even fiber levels that you need to know based on where the animal is and the kind of functions the animal is performing. All right, so we're having questions here. Okay, then we conclude with David. Where Nigeria can one really get a good species? Yeah. So the issue of getting quality breeds is always a problem. With the way the Nigerian pig market is, you were not really going to go into pedigree, just like what we have been saying. To be sure of what you are getting, you need to get animals of proven pedigree. That's a fact. If you are looking at performance, I can't really recommend at this level where you can get good species from. I think there has to be a collective effort sometime in the future, the nearest future, of farmers pulling funds together to import quality breeds into the country from proven genetic companies. We have to come to that point where we have to do that. Just like what Tommy has done in Uganda with prime pork, Christopher Mulindwa bringing in a couple of quality breeds from choice. We need to look at that option for
Nigeria. Already Ghana has Ghana is also the pure lines are also arrived in Ghana from choice. So the CG36, the spread stock will be produced in Ghana locally. So by next year, the Ghanaian market will be able to buy. So yeah. Why should the same not happen to Nigeria? So that's why I said you need some industrial farmers, not subsistence farmers.
Yeah, so of course, that is an option, although it is capital intensive, but it's also an investment opportunity for farmers willing to go through that. It's a business operation on its own. Okay, so I'll take the second question. How can you ascertain the quality of feed ingredients, especially from the local markets? Quality of feed ingredients, that's a problem. I think the greatest threat to feed ingredients farmers use to feed pigs is the issue of toxins. There is no quality control over these feed ingredients. Some of these feed ingredients have been in the warehouse, and then even if some of these feed ingredients, you see, I even reject from vendors who supply to poultry feed mills. They reject some of these feed ingredients because of toxins and the rest. So we have a very big problem. How can you ascertain? That's a difficult one because you need to ensure primarily that the material is toxin free, does not have molds or fungi on them. That's the very first physical check. You need to run physical check. If we say, okay, take these materials to laboratories, that's another logistics and cost involved in that process. So primarily, what you will want to do is to check these ingredients that you are assembling, check them for toxins, and maybe some of these toxins are not something you can easily see. You can use toxin binders to mitigate their impact on the feed. All right, so I think I don't really understand. Many farmers just want to sell. Okay, but basically that's it. You need to source quality feed ingredients to feed your animals. So closing remarks, I'll go over to Tony Wandella. Your closing remarks, thoughts for pig farming in 2023.
Okay, so when it comes to pig farming, as a new pig farmer, you will make a lot of mistakes. That's one thing you should understand. And you should be willing to look out and research and consult successful pig farmers. Because there's a lot of contradicting information here and there. People will give you very weird information until you wonder. So I think, like Tomi has said, it's like looking for a mentor. Look for somebody who's successful. Don't ask somebody. Somebody will tell you that, like in Kenya, we have this theory: any pig, any feed. You just get any breed, give any feed, and then you're a rich man. So it doesn't work like that. We did that from the start and it punished us. So at least seek credible information from people who are more experienced and people who are successful. And I wish all the pig farmers success. And it's a learning process always. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Thank you.
All right, Romeo.
I think most of the things have been said. Tony and Tommy, they've said it all. I think farmers, we need to have that change of mindset. We need to move from the subsistence way of farming and let's go commercial. Because the moment we keep on being subsistence, we are losing money. So let's have a commercial mindset. The moment we have a commercial mindset, we're going to see that wherever we're going to put our money, we are going to reap the reward. So let's change the way we see the pigs. There's a means to make money, not just for subsistence kind of work, for farming. I think that is all I can say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Romeo. Thank you, Tony, for taking our time this evening to encourage us and give us a fresh perspective going into the local market. We still have a couple of questions. I think this question, we've addressed this question. How do we handle markets at a good price and not swindling? We've handled this, and I'm sure I'll just quickly just go through one of the things we said. We said it is important. It's a suggestion. Farmers can organize themselves at the market end and create a kind of organization where maybe a slaughterhouse or something where they can, each contribute pigs from their farms, maybe on a weekly or on a daily basis, so they can actually control, get value for their pigs. And that is a suggestion. That is a suggestion. The most important thing is if you improve the quality of your production process, then you can actually get value for what you are producing. But as a suggestion, organize yourselves. It's better to approach the market as a group than just as an individual farmer. That way you can actually get the best out of it. Note that this session is being recorded and the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube page later today, tonight. So you can head over there to watch the recording of this session. So thank you once again, Tommy. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Romeo. Thank you for coming. And I wish you all a great year ahead. Thank you.
All the best. All the best.
All the best for everybody.
Thank you.